starting out once Clint Capella's like start talking crazy. Like it don't get to me like that. So just too old for that.
We'll look ahead at this Knicks-Hawks first-round series, Game 5, a potential closeout game for the Hawks tonight at 7:30 Eastern on TNT. If necessary, Games 6 and 7 would be on Friday and then on Sunday. Our Rebecca Harlow is covering this first-round series between the Knicks and Hawks, and she joins us from New York. Let's start first and foremost, Rebecca, with an injury update. What do we know of Nerlens Noel's status?
He is available tonight, Kristen, and I love that you're leading with that question because I think he's going to be critical tonight if the Knicks want to get this win. And if you think about it, he's been banged up throughout this series. He's usually so difficult inside. He provides so many second chance opportunities offensively, and then the way he gets blocks on the other end of the floor, he just hasn't been right this entire series. The other factor there is when he's been slowed down a little bit, that's allowed a second big to go in and also defend Julius Randle. So the fact that he hasn't been healthy has been tough, but I am hearing that the last couple days of rest have been very, very good for him. This is the first time in this series that there's been 2 full days off between games. So for Noel, it's big that he's had that time to rest. But the question will be, how close to 100% is he? How effective can he be? That's one of the biggest questions tonight, Kristen.
What then have the Knicks discussed in regards to necessary adjustments offensively to avoid elimination in this one?
Yeah, well, they've got to get their offense going. And you know what? That starts with Julius Randle. And I think that we saw that he made progress in Game 4. But what I mean by that is you saw him light up the stat sheet. And obviously what he was doing very well was moving the ball and making quicker decisions. And what that's going to help do tonight, if he can continue with that, if he can make that quick pass, it'll get them out of that one-on-one play. It'll get the ball swinging and get the ball around to some open shooters. And there are guys in this series who are just waiting to go off. You look at a guy like Reggie Bullock, he usually hits more threes. You look at a guy like Emmanuel Quickly, he's got a lot more to give offensively. Alec Burks, same thing. So there are a lot of guys, if that ball just swings around and keeps moving, they can really get that offense going.
Rebecca, I know you are preparing for a game. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Great work, as always. We'll be listening to the call.
Kristen, great to see you.
You as well. Guys, let's start with the Hawks stealing home court advantage at MSG last week. Coach, what are your expectations for their return?
I expect the Hawks to close them out tonight. When you look at the team, I know New York is tough. I know they play hard and those things, but the Hawks have more talent. They have more depth. They have more ways that they can score. When you look at the Knicks, when you rely heavily on one guy to run your offense, it's great. It was great during the regular season. But now the Hawks have been able to focus in on Julius Randle, and they've slowed him down, and yet they've yet to have an answer for Trae Young. He's living in the paint. He's not killing them from the three-point line. He's killing them from inside the paint. So they got to figure out what to do with the Hawks' high screening role. But the problem is, and Coach Pierce knows this, they got shooters everywhere in Atlanta. And when Clint Capella, he gets down here behind your defense, and Trae Young starts throwing them lobs. And the fact that Trae Young now is mature and he's figuring out how to play with others. I think if Joel Embiid is nicked up in the next round, hey man, don't be surprised you wake up one day and see the Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals, because health is going to have a lot to do with teams that advance going forward.
Well, coaches and players on the Knicks side have both expressed just necessary adjustments that take place throughout the course of a playoff series. What do you see as a necessity ahead of this game?
Well, I think Rebecca talked about it. It's ball movement and it's quicker decisions. If you can sit there and load up on a guy like Julius Randle, the Hawks are going to blow this game out. He's got to get the ball moving. He's got to make quicker decisions, and other guys are going to have to step up as a result of that. But they've done a tremendous job, Atlanta, of loading up and making the New York Knicks play a half-court game, and the other guys just aren't performing or producing as well as they have in the regular season. So they can move the defense, if they can not allow Atlanta to just lock in on the Derrick Rose in a pick and roll and Julius Randle in the ISOs, that's going to create some movement. It may create some free throw opportunities, easy baskets, easy opportunities defend and score off of your defense is what the New York Knicks have to do today.
We've also talked a lot about the physicality of this series. Who do you believe that favors?
Well, that's always going to favor New York if they can establish that, but they haven't proven that they can establish that. Atlanta, as Coach talked about, they have scorers and shooters all over the floor. So if you think you're just going to bully the Atlanta Hawks, well, you still have to catch up to Trae Young, and you still have to catch up to the pick and roll, and you still have to get out to the shooters. So I think they have to really worry about being able to move their defense, Atlanta's defense, and create their own scoring opportunities.
One thing you always
the Knicks want to play in a phone booth.
You can't catch me? What is
That's
it?
right. The Knicks want to play. They want to shorten the game playing a phone booth. They want it physical. They want it tight. Atlanta want to play basketball. They want to spread the floor. They want free flowing. They don't want guys grabbing and holding. So as long as they keep the full spread, it's going to be extremely difficult for New York to get Atlanta to play that type of game because they spread you out and Clint Capella getting down here and those shooters. Who do you leave open? They have 5 guys on the floor that can score at all times, and the Knicks can't do that.
Games for the first time since April. Game 5 is tonight, just after 10 on TNT. They also scored a season-low 81 points on Sunday. Lloyd, do you see this as a shooting slump, or perhaps the adjustments that the Clippers made defensively paid off?
Well, I think it's the balance of basketball. Dallas was tremendously hot in the first 2 games, and we're seeing Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George do what they've done all year, which is shoot the basketball well and really start getting other guys involved. So Game 5 will be interesting. Is Luka healthy enough? Can we get more production out of Porzingis? Tim Hardaway only had 4 points in that last game, so they're in a little bit of a slump. They have to shoot well, but they also have to defend well against a very hot and confident Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and that LA Clipper team.
Yeah, I think when you look at Dallas, 1, Luka's got to be feeling better. And then 2, they need his scoring, but they also need him to get everyone else involved. Like Coach said, when Tim Hardaway Jr. and the rest of those guys are not making shots or getting quality shots, that's when they're going to struggle. And then last but not least, Porzingis got to show up. He's supposed to be Robin to Luka's Batman, and right now he's not getting it done. When the Clippers went to that small lineup and they figured out they can put 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys on Porzingis, and he can't take advantage of it, that has changed this series. So tonight, Game 5, they got to go inside, and he's got to establish some kind of presence, because if he's going to allow 6'6" and 6'7" guys guard him at 7'3", then they're not going to be able to win this series, especially with Luka not being 100%. They need Porzingis to chip in with 20, 25 points, because Luka's got to get his, but he's got to get everyone else to help them get theirs also.
I want to ask both of you, at what point did the momentum shift in the Clippers' favor in this series? Because all of the questions surrounding this series after the first 2 games is, at what point do you hit the panic button on this team? And now the series is tied.
Well, I don't know if they ever showed that they were panicked. Obviously, you're down 0-2 after playing the first 2 games at home. But when you watch Game 3 and you see Luka get off to a tremendous start and they go up 30-11, right after that, the Clippers went on a 14-0, 14-2 run. And you saw the emergence of Kawhi, and you saw the emergence of Paul George, and you saw the efficiency of which they've played all year. So I think this is why it's a 7-game series. You're going to see the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows with the shooting and the defense. These are 2 explosive offensive teams. I think advantage to the Clippers defensively, and I think tonight that's what it's going to come down to. Who can get the most stops? Who can bring the defensive intensity? Who can play with a greater sense of urgency? That's who's going to come out victorious.
Yeah, I look, Dallas, this is a big game for them right now. They've been struggling the last 2 games. The Clippers have put their foot on them. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have played some of the best basketball that I've seen from those 2 thus far this year. And then when you look at Reggie Jackson and some of the other guys chipping in the way they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. And in their mind, they figured out a way how to slow this Dallas team down. Dallas got to change that narrative. They got to hope and pray that Luka's feeling well and they can recapture that magic they had in those first 2 games.
Or maybe they heard what you said about him.
They're 10-11 this year when he doesn't play.
If you're Washington, you're going in swinging. You know it's highly likely that Joel won't play. So you got new life, and you got 2 stars that can carry you to wins as they did tonight.
Oh, no. Oh, slammed in. Where did he come from?
Daniel Gafford, 103-99, Wizards up by 4.
That's it. Washington is alive, forcing a Game 5, beating Philadelphia 122-114.
Well, he's the undisputed triple-double king, passing Oscar Robertson this season with the most all-time. But Russell Westbrook continues to rise the ranks in the playoffs as well, sitting 3rd behind Magic Johnson and LeBron James. It's time for the workflow of the game presented by ServiceNow. And Sam, unsurprisingly, it's Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, people talk about Russ scoring, but the thing that separates him is his passing. Look at the ball moving right there and getting his teammates wide open shot. When Russ is in transition moving the basketball, he's unstoppable. And this is when he's at his best. When he gets the rebound, he gets his head up quickly, spots that one of his teammates ahead with a great pass here. And then here's Russ right here. Okay, you trying to play off of me? I'm still going to eat up that space, drive to the basket, and start this chain reaction of guys getting to the hole like Ishmael did for an easy floater. Here's Russ again right here. All right, you're going to put two guys here. You know what? I'm going to move the ball. I'm going to attack the basket, and when I suck the defense in again, I'm going to drop it off for one of my big guys to eat or either dunk. And here's Russ right here again. Look at the defense is set right here. But you know what? With that speed and quickness and ability to create a shot for his teammates. And that's the thing. I tell people this all the time, Lloyd. When you bag off a guy like Russ thinking he can't shoot, all you're doing is giving him a huge advantage. You are a standstill target, and a guy like Russell Westbrook is coming at you with a live dribble. Who do you think going to win that? He's going to win it every time, and teams have not made the adjustment.
That was rhetorical. He didn't want you to actually.
But you got to get up on guys like that. You got to send them where you want them to go, because when you play off Russ, you're giving him options.
Yeah, one of the things we'd always talk about in the scouting report is you have to close out to where he's going, not to where he is. He is not a three-point shooter that's going to take those shots just because you're playing off. When that ball is swung to him, he's looking to attack the rim. So you've got to meet him at that area, or else other guys are going to have to converge, and that's where you see him make those kickouts.
Well, we're with you until tip-off between the Sixers and the Wizards as the Sixers lead this series 3-1. And our Stephanie Reddy is on the road covering the series for NBA TV and TNT. It's great to see you. Let's start with Joel Embiid, the injury that sidelined him for tonight's Game 5. What do we know?
Hey, Kristen, so good to see you. This is my first time seeing you in the studio while we're working. I'm thrilled you're back. Welcome back. I know I'm late, but I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, friend.
Okay, to Joel Embiid.
Thank you, friend.
He
it
is
means
right
a lot.
behind me, actually. I'm so glad, honestly. Joel Embiid's right behind me working out, which is a huge surprise because the injury, they told us first it was right knee soreness. Then they elaborated today with the press release and said the MRI revealed a small meniscus tear. That's always alarming when you talk about the meniscus. So seeing him out here doing any sort of basketball activity is a great bit of news. So what they're saying is that the injury will be managed with physical therapy, rehab, and treatment around the clock. Also, another good piece of news, because there is no talk of surgery, at least at this moment, Kristen, for Joel Embiid's knee. So the around the clock is happening at his home, as well as back here at the facility. So he is taking this rehab very serious. What they're going to do now is every single morning, they will assess how his knee feels. That will determine what sort of activities he will be able to participate in. It's going to be about his comfort level and his tolerance moving forward. He is literally day to day.
That's great to hear. Well, the capacity has also increased for tonight's game as well. What's the expectation for the home court advantage in Philly?
Right? As if they needed more help in that regard. Philadelphia, the local government has removed all restrictions as it relates to the crowd here. However, the NBA has very specific guidelines as it relates to social distancing. So the NBA guidelines state that you must maintain 3 feet between each group. So that means the capacity tonight, even though it is increased, is not quite 100%. It's more like 75%. They're expecting around 15,000 fans here at the Wells Fargo Center.
Regardless of how this series ends up, how would you describe what you're witnessing from Russell Westbrook?
Amazing. Nothing short of amazing. Scott Brooks said it best, actually. He said, I don't know that I've ever seen a person impact a playoff game without scoring a bunch of points. Here's someone who's playing the guard position and grabs 21 rebounds in a playoff game that was do or die. I mean, you talk about having impact on your team. Russell Westbrook personifies that.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Stephanie. You are doing excellent work, as always. I love getting the chance to see you. Looking forward to hearing you as well on the call.
Thank you so much, Kristen.
Of course. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about this series. How is it that, well, they make up for the numbers they're not going to be getting from Joel in this one?
You know, before the series, I would have said if the game is sped up, advantage Washington. It's the only opportunity that they're going to really have to make this a series by just playing in transition, trying to get easy baskets. Now I think that's Philly's advantage. No Joel Embiid, no need to play in the half court. Use your advantage with Ben Simmons running the point, grabbing the defensive rebound. Take advantage of those shooters. Dwight Howard is their only big, and so they're going to have a small ball lineup for most of the game, and they need to play up-tempo basketball.
Tobias Harris was just 8 of 24 in the Game 4 loss after shooting 57% from the field in the first 3 wins. What do you want to see from him in Game 5?
The same. He's got to get him up, especially with no Joel Embiid, the coach's point. Look, Philly's going to play fast. This is going to be a high-scoring game because you know Washington bringing the track shoes. And if you remember, when Joel Embiid is out, that's when Philadelphia plays different. They play faster. They spread the floor. They shoot more threes. They put Ben Simmons at the high post, use him in those pick and rolls. So this is going to be a track meet tonight. And I'm with Coach. I don't know who can win this game because Washington is going to play the exact type of game they want to play. But Philadelphia won a lot of basketball games without Joel Embiid playing this way. It's going to come down to this. Philly has more three-point shooting than Washington does, but Washington got that one guy that can live in the paint. Oh, and that other guy that was second in the league scoring, Bradley Beal. Of those 4 guys, Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons and Westbrook and Bradley Beal, between those 4 guys, the 2 that has the best game tonight are going to win this game.
All right, 3 games to 1, with their only loss coming in the first game with Donovan Mitchell on the sidelines with an ankle injury. Game 5 is at 9:30 Eastern right here on NBA TV. So I'll start with you. Sam, now that you've watched the last 3, how do you describe what Donovan means to this team?
Everything.
Yeah.
Look, they are just a good basketball team with him. Without him, with him, they have the potential to be a great basketball team. He starts everything. He doesn't get the assist. It's not even a hockey assist, but when you watch him play and he starts getting down here and he makes that first pass, it starts that chain reaction of the ball moving. And now when they get to moving that ball, or when Rudy Gobert steps up and sets the high screen road, this starts that chain reaction. And they are unstoppable when they get to moving the ball and using those screens. But the thing about him that's so different is he impacts the game in so many different ways because he's always putting pressure on the opposing team defense. And so I felt like once he came back and shown that he was ready to go and healthy, it changed the series because he's Ja Morant, just bigger, more refined, more polished. And that's what Ja Morant is going to be one day, Donovan Mitchell. But right now, Donovan Mitchell's having his way with this series because he's bigger, stronger, and he understands his basketball team and where he needs to get everybody going.
And Mike Conley, Lloyd, has averaged 20 points and 10 assists. How do you, even begin to really look at what he's done physically, but also mentally, playing against his former team, a franchise he was part of for so long?
I don't think that part bothers him. I think Mike Conley knows his value in Memphis, and I think the Memphis fans appreciate Mike Conley. There's not a bad thing you can say about Mike Conley. Donovan is very important to the Utah Jazz, but I think Mike Conley is the MVP of the series thus far because of how he manages the game for Utah. They're always going to need Donovan to be Donovan. But when these games get close, they need to slow it down, they need to stop, they need to get the ball to the right person, which is Donovan Mitchell. That's where Mike Conley makes his imprint. He's been a tremendous leader for this organization. He's been a tremendous leader for this team. It's a very mature team, but as the head of the snake, he knows how to get the right guy involved, and sometimes that right guy is him.
I do want to bring up Ja Morant. Well, you brought him up first, but he did have 23 points, 12 assists in Game 4. That was his first ever playoff double-double. It may end tonight, but how important has this play-in tournament leading to this series been for him?
It's been huge for the whole Memphis team. Look how this team has grown leaps and bounds. You look at Ja Morant, and I remember the game before they played Golden State, or the week before they played Golden State, and that player, the winner take all, they left him open and made him shoot. In that Golden State game, he came out and he purposely started knocking down threes. I like that. Okay, you're going to embarrass me? Then I'm going to embarrass you back. And if you look at how he's taken his game since that series to a whole nother level, for a guy that supposedly, quote-unquote, can't shoot, he finds a way to put the ball in the basket awfully a lot for a guy that can't shoot. So for him and this Memphis team, I think they've taken off not just Ja Morant, but Valanciunas, Dylan Brooks. This has been an unbelievable experience for this Memphis franchise.
Yeah, I think the thing you mention and think about when you say Ja Morant is his competitiveness. I remember maybe last year, James Harden in Houston playing way off of him and him knocking those same type of shots down. And he took it personal. And so you see that with this Memphis Grizzlies team. This is the old grit and grind, Tony Allen, Mike Conley, Zach Randolph back in those days. They're just the new generation of that grit and grind. And I think for the most part, what you're looking at when you think of this Memphis team, they represent the next generation of the NBA. Ja is a star. Donovan Mitchell is a star. All of these young guys on this stage are really performing to a new level. And I think his competitive nature is really kind of
about that series. But first, I want to get to remembering Danny Ainge and how he's going to be remembered as the architect of this Celtics team for as long as he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great run for Danny. He's been a significant member of that organization as a player, and then again as a general manager and head of basketball operations. But you get it. You know, it was some health issues a couple of years ago, and advised to take it easy. And I think anytime you can walk away on your own terms and say, this is the time for me to focus on myself, I think it's a testament and credit to him. But he's done a tremendous job in bringing, think of the name that's there now, Jason Tatum, some of those guys, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, to the Celtics organization. And they have a prideful organization. They're all about winning. They've always been about winning. And he's put them in a great position to do so moving forward.
And, of course, constructed the team's last title run back in 2008 as well. Coach, what are your expectations for Brad Stevens in his new role?
Well, it's going to be different because I never envisioned at this stage of Brad Stevens' career in the front office. I remember a conversation I had with Flip Saunders. And when he first was introduced in Minnesota, people forget, Flip was the general manager.
Right.
And when I met with Flip, I said, Coach, how long is it going to be before I start playing for you? He said, Sam, what are you talking about in the gym? Coach, you're too young to be upstairs. And now when you look at Brad Stevens, I think it's going to fit his role and his personality, but I also think it's going to be temporary. Not to say that a year from now or 2 years from now he's going to be back in coaching, but Brad Stevens is young. He left college basketball to pursue a coaching career in the NBA, and he was a very successful college coach. So maybe he's a little burnt out with the pressure of being in Boston. That's a high-pressure team right there that you're coaching. So maybe 2-3 years from now, after he kind of take a step back, he'll be ready to get back in the fold because people don't understand, and Coach will tell you, coaching is hard. Yeah. And managing people and all the things, Coach and I was talking about this last time. Most of your day is spent with putting out fires. Most of your day is not spent thinking about coaching and getting your team better. It's addressing all the day-to-day problems that come with being a head coach.
Well, you're really selling it right now. Thank you, Coach.
Hey, you got to be built for this. It's not this job being a head coach is not for everybody.
Without a doubt.
You got to be built for it.
Well, before we look ahead to round two, let's look back on the Nets and the Celtics series that wrapped up Tuesday night and what ended up being Brad Stevens.
You know, obviously we've got some really good players and some proven guys, and but we have to improve. This team that beat us is a very good team. There are very good teams across the East, and we're going to have to get better. We never got a true look at this team this year, but I think we have enough information. Shows that we need to get better.
To play against the best players in the world, on this stage, this platform, so many people watching with guys that I came up with in the league, James, Kyrie, it's definitely cool. But I mean, I'm not trying to sit back and reflect on how nice it is to play with those guys. I'm trying to get out there and get work done and worry about how we're gonna get better each and every day. But it is fun playing with two guys that could pretty much do everything on the basketball field.
3 of the best scorers to ever play the game, on one team. And then you have a collection of guys that have done unbelievable things as well in this league, either coming off the bench or starting with us. We're a selfless group. We try to make sure it's not just about us three, but we do understand that the expectations on us to perform and to lead our team, it's just inevitable.
The Brooklyn Nets now advancing to face the Milwaukee Bucks in round 2. Game 1 is Saturday on TNT. I've got to ask you first, how much, knowledge did you gain about either of these two teams and their potential postseason runs with such shortened first-round series?
A lot, honestly. All year we've been talking about the Brooklyn Nets and whether or not, what are they going to look like when they're healthy? Well, they were healthy for 4 games, and we saw enough.
Yeah.
It was the most efficient scoring that we've seen of a trio in NBA history. And I think they're going to get stronger playing together and more potent playing together as the series and the playoffs continue to go on. And I think the same thing for Milwaukee. Last year we came out of it and said, well, can Milwaukee get past? Can they advance in the playoffs? Well, they were dominant in the first round in the playoffs against Miami. And by the way, that was the team that knocked them out last year. I think they're more mature. I think they're definitely well positioned at the guard spot to finish games with Middleton and Drew Holiday. And then obviously Giannis is a closer as well. So I think we've learned a lot. It was a short series between both, but it's a head-to-head matchup, and I think they're both primed and ready.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. We have potentially 6 Hall of Famers. We know 3 in Brooklyn. Those 3 guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. We know Giannis is going to be there. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday got an outside chance. They still got long careers ahead of them. But when you look up this matchup, both teams got some advantages and disadvantages. The advantage Milwaukee has, Brook Lopez, they done figured out Brook Lopez can score in the post. Yeah. And so with Giannis and Brook in the post, that's going to be different. But then you got to deal with Kyrie and James Harden and Kevin Durant on the outside. So when I look at this matchup, I think it's going to go 7 because people think Brooklyn is just going to blow Milwaukee off the floor. Coach said it. Milwaukee's playing the best basketball. They dominated the Miami Heat, and we know how physically and mentally tough Miami is. And right now, I think they've been setting the stage all season, building for this matchup right here.
I love that both of our ears perked up a little bit when we hear Kyrie say 3 games for the first time since April. Game 5 is tonight, just after 10 on TNT. They also scored a season-low 81 points on Sunday. Lloyd, do you see this as a shooting slump, or perhaps the adjustments that the Clippers made defensively paid off?
Well, I think it's the balance of basketball. Dallas was tremendously hot in the first 2 games, and we're seeing Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George do what they've done all year, which is shoot the basketball well and really start getting other guys involved. So Game 5 will be interesting. Is Luka healthy enough? Can we get more production out of Porzingis? Tim Hardaway only had 4 points in that last game, so they're in a little bit of a slump. They have to shoot well, but they also have to defend well against a very hot and confident Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and that LA Clipper team.
Yeah, I think when you look at Dallas, 1, Luka's got to be feeling better. And then 2, they need his scoring, but they also need him to get everyone else involved. Like Coach said, when Tim Hardaway Jr. and the rest of those guys are not making shots or getting quality shots, that's when they're going to struggle. And then last but not least, Porzingis got to show up. He's supposed to be Robin to Luka's Batman, and right now he's not getting it done. When the Clippers went to that small lineup and they figured out they can put 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys on Porzingis, and he can't take advantage of it, that has changed this series. So tonight, Game 5, they got to go inside, and he's got to establish some kind of presence, because if he's going to allow 6'6" and 6'7" guys guard him at 7'3", then they're not going to be able to win this series, especially with Luka not being 100%. They need Porzingis to chip in with 20, 25 points, because Luka's got to get his, but he's got to get everyone else to help them get theirs also.
I want to ask both of you, at what point did the momentum shift in the Clippers' favor in this series? Because all of the questions surrounding this series after the first 2 games is, at what point do you hit the panic button on this team? And now the series is tied.
Well, I don't know if they ever showed that they were panicked. Obviously, you're down 0-2 after playing the first 2 games at home. But when you watch Game 3 and you see Luka get off to a tremendous start and they go up 30-11, right after that, the Clippers went on a 14-0, 14-2 run. And you saw the emergence of Kawhi, and you saw the emergence of Paul George, and you saw the efficiency of which they've played all year. So I think this is why it's a 7-game series. You're going to see the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows with the shooting and the defense. These are 2 explosive offensive teams. I think advantage to the Clippers defensively, and I think tonight that's what it's going to come down to. Who can get the most stops? Who can bring the defensive intensity? Who can play with a greater sense of urgency? That's who's going to come out victorious.
Yeah, I look, Dallas, this is a big game for them right now. They've been struggling the last 2 games. The Clippers have put their foot on them. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have played some of the best basketball